that's where the responsibility ought to be placed, Advocate Brenda. In other words, should those pressing questions be directed solely to government? And I'm asking this because, I certainly get the sense that we have the same conversations every year. I mean, you can almost sort of play a clip that we had last year this time, and I think, it'll still resonate, at least insofar as the relevance is concerned. So I'm wondering whether we're even asking the right questions to begin with. Part of the focuses for this emergency response plan includes changing social norms and behavior. I don't imagine government being able to do that on their own.
And very true. It can be done by government alone. That's why I'm talking about a coordinated, collaborative approach, right? But also, you and I should ask ourselves the question, you as a Yanda, what do you do on a daily basis to change those norms? What is your role in ending gender-based violence in this country? So we can't remove ourselves as individuals from this conversation, from implementation of the NSP, from a violent-free South Africa, from a patriarchal norms that continue to subjugate and violate women. We as individuals, before we are part of structures and institutions, we're individuals, and what is our role in ending that violence? And I think that conversation should happen, because if we continue to point a finger at others and not look inward to see what role am I playing on a daily basis to end the violence, then I'll be here again next year, you inviting me to come and talk about whether we're making progress or not. We can't remove ourselves. All of us have got a stake in ensuring that we have a violent-free South Africa and that women in this country feel safe.
Yeah. Well, Advocate, since we're having this introspective conversation about the conversation, speak to me about the language often used to unpack some of these complex issues. And they are complex. Often you'll hear, you've said patriarchy, intersectionality, toxic masculinity, very empowering, helpful words that help us describe as best the experience of many women in the country. I wonder, though, whether they reach all corners of society, especially where it matters. And, this is not to necessarily suggest that there are people who ought to hear this more than others, but something ought to be said about people being left behind as we continue grappling with these issues.
And I need to caution around that, because we can't assume that there are others who don't understand this language or these terms. What they know is the experience at the hands of assailants and perpetrators. So when I'm raped, I know what that means, whether it's because, and we can talk about the cause of why I'm raped, but the fact of the matter is, when I'm raped, I know that I've been raped, and I don't want to listen to any other explanation or justification, right? So that's the first thing. I think we all know how this violence manifests, how it takes shape. We might use different terms, and because this work that gets done it's all encompassing, right? It is looking at researchers, it's looking at funders, it's looking at all of us who do the work at the policy level, those who are activists at the advocacy level. So if we talk of patriarchy and masculinity, we talk about a system that has for centuries denied the women the right to exist and to breathe, right? That I will violate you because I own you. I have the power on you. Over the years, I can determine when you speak, how you sit, and how you talk. Because immediately I speak and I'm loud, I'm told that I'm not behaving like a woman, I'm not feminine. So these are the norms that we have known for years, and men do that on a daily basis. So we can drill it down, and when we talk patriarchy, bring it to its lowest and simplest form so that people understand. And women can relate to all these stories of how they're violated daily, right? When you use finance to control a woman and make sure that you know of her movements, because you know whether you have given her 50 rand for airtime or not in the relationship. We talk of intimate partner violence. It's the highest intimate partner violence, right? And when it happens behind closed doors, behind high walls, Where do we expect government to intervene? It requires you, when you get to know that your neighbor, and when you hear those screams on a daily basis, that you have to step in and do something about it. That you can't continue to say it's a private matter, that has got nothing to do with you. Because tomorrow you're going to be saying, I should have acted. So the complexity of gender-based violence, as we have said, it's not a straight line. It requires 58 million South Africans to step up.
Advocate,
All of us.
yeah,
Step up.
right. And what we're likely to see again this year is more commitments, right? I spoke about that 1.6 billion rand that had been committed the last time. The president is likely to deliver a very emotive speech, etc., etc. How ought we respond this time? Because often I get a sense that there's renewed hope, and perhaps there's a place for that. But I shudder at the thought of, again, as you rightly mentioned, us being exactly where we are now in a year's time, asking whether or not we've made enough progress yet.
And here's the thing for me, Ayanda. And we are grateful that the media has been in the forefront and really pushing stories and inviting most of us to come and speak about this subject matter. So we are appreciative of that. But you have not been asking the right questions on those who have got the responsibility. So if you have the emergency response action plan that the president announced and there's 1.6 billion allocated, no one has ever asked the question of how that money was expended. So that's the question that must be asked. So when they come now with 16 days of activism and come and announce something new, take them back and ask for detailed response on how that money was spent, right? Ask the question around how the NSP is being implemented and funded. Those questions must be asked. How we are changing the justice system, right? We've got 3 bills currently and in Parliament that are being debated that are supposed to change how women apply for a protection order in this country. So if any one of you have not been to a court in this country, a domestic violence court, and just have a sense and go through what women go through on a daily basis when they apply for a protection order, then you will not appreciate what this inhumanity does to many women.
The Advocate Brenda, we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And it's an issue.
Those are the questions that must be asked.
Absolutely. It's an issue we're going to continue focusing on throughout the course of the next 2 days here on Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405. Thanks for weighing in, as you always do around this time, helping us really grapple with some of the sobering reflections that we need to have at this time of the year. Advocate Brenda Madumise-Pajibo is the co-chair of the Interim Steering Committee on Gender-Based Violence. Thank you very much indeed for your time.